This is Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski. Here now, Tony Brueski.
The big thing that that we've heard out of Delphi when they try to dismiss his letters here is, oh, he failed the polygraph miserably. Consider the source. Who administered the polygraph? Could it have been the same folks who don't want this information seemingly getting out? At least that's how it appears. And they're the ones who are saying he failed? Can we get this done by an independent third party maybe and see just how much he fails it then?
Exactly. I mean, who was the examiner? When did
this take place?
Right. All those things. And like, are we all of a sudden acting like polygraphs or some kind of like infallible lie detecting machine? I mean, if they were, we'd be using them in court all the time.
That and the fact he offered to wear a wire.
Right.
Now, that to me is the other part where it's like, look, this guy really is not trying to make shit up. He's offering to wear a wire. He offered it to him several times, and they said, no, sir, we don't need that. You don't need to do that. I mean, that's somebody who really is trying to help you. Why would you turn that down? If you are the investigator on this case, it's 2017 back here when we're talking. There is no Richard Allen that's on the radar yet. There's no charges against Richard Allen other than there's nothing even there other than the fact that he raised his hand and said, hey, I was there. I'll be happy to give you any information. And then they forget about that. So you have this train that needs to go somewhere, but they're ignoring all of these pieces of evidence that are just being spoon-fed to them and saying, nah, we're good. We're not even going to look into it. We're not even going to consider it. Why?
It's inexplicable.
Does this happen in other cases where they just, no, we don't care. We don't want to hear any of this evidence?
I mean, yes, where they've developed tunnel vision on a suspect, but like you're saying, that wasn't the case here.
We weren't in tunnel vision yet.
They were right.
Yeah.
There was nobody. They had their designs on nobody at that point. I cannot come up. And as far as I know, Ron Logan was never cleared.
No. As far as I know as well. I've talked to the FBI, and the FBI says the same thing. Nobody really, I don't believe he was ever officially cleared other than dying. Right. And that still doesn't clear him. So
right. You know, but at that time, when they certainly liked him to the extent that they executed the search warrant, they went in, you know, it's like, how are you just ignoring it unless there exists something, which again would have to be in the discovery. If there was a way that they said, you know what, due to the search warrant and what we recovered there, we're confident that this guy didn't do it. Like there would have been some semblance of evidence found on his property. And we feel, I mean, aside from the girls themselves, right? You know, I mean,
something that negates the fact that the girls are on his property cleaned up, the fact that he had to make up a fake alibi and got caught doing that, the fact that his cell phone data shows him at the scene of the crime, there'd have to be something that negates all of that.
100%, like all of it. And I mean, did they check the fire pit? Did they check to see if there were any kind of remains from clothing that had been burnt? Which McClellan misstated, like he just completely made up the fact that Reese Davis said that Logan told him he burned the girls' clothes when he said he burned his own clothes. But, you know, like McClellan conflated that. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, because that's everything that has gone on in this case is like exactly why, if you were to make a list from A to Z in terms of just the shady shit that has gone on in this case. If people are wondering why so many people are questioning this conviction, look at the list. Yeah. Like this isn't you and I trying to spread a fucking, like a narrative here, man. Like this is shit that has gone on like unequivocally. And you can look at it starting from just the botched investigation and working its way all the way through trial, man. And it's like, look, if you're sitting out there and you feel comfortable about this verdict and how this thing went down, God bless you. You know, like I don't want to live in that country. I don't want to
Yeah.
live where that becomes the norm of how our criminal justice system works. If you do, then we're going to have to agree to disagree,
Yeah.
because that is not how this system is set up to work.
No.
What happened to this guy? I mean, if this isn't a railroad job, it's going to be the biggest series of coincidences that I've ever seen in my life in regard to anything.
Yeah.
Because there is just every single element of a railroad job exists here, to where I just can't get past it. I just can't get past it. And I can't help but think that this guy just got railroaded. And like, he could be guilty. I don't know.
No.
Like,
But we won't know
saying?
because
Like,
because
either
we're
way.
But how have we never looked at all of these pieces of evidence, and why? Why not? You have there is so much here that points. This is, in many ways, this is reminiscent to me of the Ellen Greenberg case, in a way where the power just basically says, nope, you're wrong, we're going away, we're looking the other way, la 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 la, 20 stab wounds, post-mortem, she had to be a zombie to kill herself, la la la, not true, we can't, well, it's true, but we're just not going to address it. It's just like, we're just not going to address it. We're not going to handle anything the way that we're supposed to in this country. We're just going to, hopefully you go away and everyone else gets sick of it as well. Luckily, we're not there anymore, and people pay attention well beyond just, it coming out of the headlines. But my God,
I mean, thank God for us.
Thank God for
like,
people giving a shit online.
Like that,
yeah.
That's the point, right? It's like, if we're not out there squawking,
Yeah.
and I'm talking about guys like you and I and everybody else that does
Yeah.
that's putting news that doesn't exist on legacy media out there,
Yeah.
and giving just way more detail than they have time to give on legacy media. You know, if you're watching a news report on your local TV news, you're getting a 3 to 4 minute piece that's going to be very truncated and it's going to be very limited. Whereas now you've got guys like you and I that sit here and talk about this shit for hours.
Yeah.
And we're digging into it in a way that just never existed before.
There's no excuse not to be informed on a topic like this. If you're going to have an opinion, great, but you have to be informed on it, and you can't just walk away going, well, they said it's this, it must be true. In this case, it's not. There's a lot of shit here that just blows your mind, and it gets crazier and crazier every single day. Okay, so the new motion that's been filed, the one about Reese, I read the whole thing today. It's on the podcast if somebody wants to go back, or on YouTube and absorb it verbally. It's all there. Where does this go from here? Is this another one that gets thrown in front of Judge Gull?
To me, this is the one that requires an answer from Nick McClelland, because this one has Brady implications.
Yeah.
Right. So, the other stuff is stuff that she can just say, well, you know what? I don't need to have a hearing on this. I can just rule on it. But where they've alleged that McClelland has failed to turn over exculpatory evidence, which, I mean, you can't and this plays out a couple of ways, Tony. It's like it's definitely exculpatory in nature, right? Because you've got another guy who is obviously got some details that it appears that only the killer would know. But kind of the bigger point of it is that in a situation like this, had they been tendered that evidence at the proper time, that they would have been able to walk into that day of hearings with what I think would have been more compelling to Gull in terms of the Ron Logan information. So, and potentially been able to put Reese Davis on the stand to testify so that she can judge his credibility and have because I mean, I don't see where she's going to have there was no nexus to lean on to deny them being able to put that on at trial. So, and you have to think, so just play that through.
Yeah.
So say that they had these letters, they put Reese Davis on, and I had Andrew Baldwin on our channel last night. He came back on to talk about this. And I mean, the plan would have been to get Reese in there during that 3 days of hearings, to have him testify as to what Ron Logan told him and to what Kagan Klein told him that basically corroborated what Ron Logan told him, and have her sit there and say, all right, okay. And even if she would have said again, no, still you've made the record.
Yeah.
You've made the record, which would make it even more implausible for the appellate court to look at it and be like, yeah, this guy got a fair trial. You know what I mean? The more that you could pile on the front end in terms of things that she just got wrong. And I don't know how she could say, considering that the girls were found on Ron Logan's property, that there was no nexus. Because the standard, Tony, is not that you have to solve the crime as the defense attorneys. That makes no sense.
No.
Because if you're having to solve, if I've solved the crime, there exists no such thing as a third-party culprit defense, because if I've solved it in the way that she's requiring, well, there was no DNA found. There was no, you couldn't prove that they were if I was able to do that to the extent where law enforcement made the arrest, well, they're going to dismiss the charges against my guy because they got a better suspect. So when am I bringing forward that third-party culprit defense? This whole concept of having to solve the crime in order to be able to put that kind of defense on in front of her in her courtroom is crazy.
Yeah,
it just is. I've never heard of any other judge doing it like that. I've heard of judges, hey, I want to keep you on a really tight leash. This isn't you just going in there and willy-nilly talking about somebody that has no kind of nexus to this at all. These are it's just, if you, a nexus is not solving the crime.
No.
And that's the way. So I that whole Reese Davis thing. So if it turns out, and it goes one of three ways, right? It's either McClelland knew about it in terms of the letters, and remember, the letters came way later in the game.
Yeah.
The video, which the defense never got, and Baldwin sent an email early, and by his own admission, he's like, I wish I would have followed up on it. I dropped the ball.
But there's a record of requesting it back then. That's part of it too. It's not like this is just some new thing that Reese is saying that wasn't documented at an earlier date.
Correct. And you've got the video, and then years later, that's when the letters come, when they make the arrest, and Davis goes through his whole thought processes on why he wasn't very talkative the first time that Andy Baldwin went with them, because he's like, I don't know that Richard Allen's not the third guy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until after the trial, when the evidence starts coming out that he's clearly following it, that the letter writing campaign starts. And I think it started a little bit before trial, after the arrest. So, he's sending these letters out to McClelland, and you sit there and you think, well, why would he send it to McClelland as opposed to the defense? And I think that the answer to that is you're going to the guy who's charging a guy that you're saying is innocent.
You're thinking you're doing the right thing. You think you're going here, this if you're a straightforward prosecutor and you're not covering something up, or you don't just have blinders on it, I don't know which it is, or all of the above with him, you would go, oh, holy shit, we got to look into this. Not go away. We don't, and it not, you can only give me 2 paragraphs. Huh? I mean, what the hell is that? Where he wants to convey this information, writing it down. You can only do 2 paragraphs. I have a lot of info here. You should probably hear it. It may take more than 2 paragraphs. Nope, just 2.
I know, man. it's just, the whole thing. I mean, but so here's the way this is going to boil down. So it's the one thing that she did not deny today.
Yeah.
In her series of denials. It's the one thing that's pending. And I think that she did that because I think McClelland has to answer it. And I'm not going to even say it, but so one of 3 things happened here. It's either McClelland had him and he committed a Brady violation by not turning him over, or 2, that he had him, but it was so close to trial, this is what I think he's going to say. But that he had him, they came in, and that he never looked at him, that they were prepping for trial. This was in the months leading up to trial. He didn't have a spare minute, and he was done looking at shit. It didn't, if it wasn't relating to Richard Allen, he wasn't looking at it. So that he just didn't look at them to send them. Like that, I think will be his plausible deniability. And then, the other is that, he just never got the letters, which is the thing that Andy Baldwin fears most. Like if you're the defense attorney and you're basically calling Brady on a prosecutor, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. That, like, Brady violations end careers of prosecutors. So you don't tread lightly. You're doing your due diligence. They're double, triple checking, making sure that they never got these things. And Andy, when he fires off that motion, felt confident that they never got him. So, but if McClelland turns around and says, "Oh, we never got him," then it's going to become incumbent upon Andy to be able to prove that they did. And now he's claiming that he's got a third-party witness that is going to be able to corroborate that McClelland's office did receive those letters. So, and the reality is that the letters exist, and if he got them, it doesn't matter what reason, even if it's the plausible deniability reason, it's still Brady material. It's still material that would have potentially changed the outcome of the trial. You have to sit here and think, if that jury had another person, namely Ron Logan, to point the finger at, oh my God, well, the girls were found on that guy's property. Oh my God, he lied about his alibi. Oh my God, oh my God, he knew about facts that only the killer would know. You have to imagine, had they been able to present that at trial, that there very likely could have been a different result.
Yeah, you're just ineptitude doing your job if you didn't pay attention to that.
Right, it's ineffective assistance if you're ignoring it. And that's what Andy's response was.
Yeah.
He's like, I took the risk, but I'm ineffective if I don't. If this guy's told me this information, I have to assume that it's true. I'm going to assume that it's true. It seemed credible to me. I did my due diligence. It doesn't appear that we received it. And, and then I asked Nick flat out. I asked him before I filed this, did you get the letters? Simple answer, yes or no. Did you receive the letters? Yes or no. If so, when? When did you receive them? Simple answer. Nick didn't respond. So it's been over this long weekend, and we've heard nothing. So, out of all the denials, the fact that she left that one open and pending, I thought was a good sign.
Could she just deny that one too and just say nope, and then nobody has to look into this period? Or would it, will it take something larger to have this investigated? Or does she have the power, like she has with everything else, just to say, oh, got a lot of good points there, but nope.
And
then what?
I don't know, man. It's like, Gull is at the point where she's so dug in. And I think that she believes that they got it right. Like, I think that in her heart, she believes that Richard Allen's the guy, like, despite everything that she's heard. Like, is she not
is she not watching the same thing everybody else is?
I don't know. I don't know. But at this point, she's willing to let the appellate court deal with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's it. So,
and obviously that's eventually where it will likely end up. If he never got the letters, what does that say? Where would they have gone? Who would have stopped them?
No one. So, you would think that, and we've had this discussion, whether or not when the letters are going out, if they're not legal mail, they're typically not sealed because they're typically scanning them in. So either Newcastle scanned these things in, or somebody at the prison saw them, but like Andy trying to track that down. And then your other source is whoever takes the mail for the prosecutor's office over there.
Yeah.
Whoever's sitting in front, like, people are going to know.
Yeah.
Like, if they try to ghost the letters, like, if I'm McClelland, I probably made a bunch of calls over to Newcastle to try to figure out what their protocol is. If in fact he got him and just didn't turn him over, like his smartest move would be like, I got him, but we just, like, I didn't realize that we had him. Like, I was way too deep into prepping for trial.
And if he were to come forward and make that admission and say, look, we just messed up, didn't look at him, what would the next step be? What would the correct not saying what's going to happen. What would the correct next step be if even the prosecutor says, yeah, we got them, they're here, we didn't do anything with them?
I mean, the next step is that essentially you're relying on the appellate court to say, all right, well, this existed. It wasn't turned over, no matter what the reason. We're not going to say it's a Brady, but it existed. It's clearly exculpatory or potentially exculpatory. I think it gets him a new trial.
Does Gull have any place in this process of it getting to an appellate court where that could take place?
It's part of the record now. So if she denies it, it's part of the record.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The mere fact that it was filed, you know, I would hope that she would preserve or, you know, order it all to be preserved. But, you know, I mean, the bottom line is that thank God the guy himself is alive.
Yeah. For
you
now.
Know, right. As much as I'd like, for now, as much as I'd like to see the letters, you know, at least he's still alive for now.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast.